And on today's episode, we're going to discuss one of the best ways to construct the perfect dispute letter right now. Alright guys, so when it comes to constructing the perfect dispute letter, it's actually very effective to remove one of those biggest negative items that's on your credit report. 1 out of every 5 Americans in the United States have an error on their credit report big enough to cause them to either be denied for a loan or pay a higher interest rate than they're supposed to. So one of the most effective ways to get that situated is by doing a dispute letter. Today I'm with Cynthia Figueroa from BWS, the queen of disputes, to talk a little bit more about how to construct the perfect dispute letter and why are their results so high as far as the removal rate, or how do you call it here?
The success rate.
The success rate, there you go. I've been trying to practice that, but I guess it came out the way it was. So the high success rate that it is today, and what is that right now?
It's, I believe, at 73%.
73% on dispute rate. So we're gonna find out from her exactly what it is about. So obviously, now when it comes to writing a dispute letter, what are the must-haves that a dispute letter must have? But first things first, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience since she's brand new to the channel?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Cynthia. I'm a local Miami girl. I actually have an experience. My work experience goes back extensive corporate experience in different industries. I do have my bachelor's degree in business administration, and I have been with BWS for 3 years. A little bit more, I guess you could say that I pretty much oversee the processes that we have in place, the turnaround times for our customers to get their reevaluations, their updates, the training for my staff, always educating myself to get new ways or things that we can implement in our letters to reap better results or higher results for those difficult accounts. I mean, there's a lot that I get done, so it's kind of hard to put it.
So in a nutshell, if you've ever done business with BWS, once it goes from the sales department, it goes over to her, and her team strategizes the most effective ways to be able to remove and correct some of the information that's on your credit report. All right, so obviously one of the first things we're gonna start off is, again, going back to that statistic, 1 out of every 5 Americans have an error big enough on their credit report, causing them to be either denied or pay a higher interest rate than what you're really supposed to be. Some of those reasons can be something as simple as the incorrect spelling of your name, address, a phone number you've never used before. So it's important to use a reputable credit monitoring system, kind of like privacyguard.com, myfico.com, or creditchecktotal.com. Those are some, to name a few, that they actually use here, to make sure that you go ahead and identify those errors, those negative items that are affecting you, and go from there. So obviously at that point, we're gonna go ahead and construct a dispute letter. So Cynthia, what are some of the things that we can start off by knowing? What does a dispute letter really need?
Well, it primarily needs all your relevant personal information. All your personal information. You essentially want to make sure that what's being reported to the credit agencies, or what the credit agencies are reporting, is current and relevant. So you want that's like the first thing you want to get corrected. You want to remove all old addresses, all alias names that are incorrect. You can even go as far as, updating your employer information, but primarily you want to focus on make sure your date of birth is correct, that your social is correct, that your address and your name is correct, and that the spelling is exactly what you want it to be.
Got it. And now when it comes to, after we've identified the personal information, then when it comes to the accounts, does it really vary or depend on the types of account or how you're disputing as far as the verbiage?
Well, no, because at the end of the day, what you're focusing on is what is the discrepancy, or what is the error on the account, or the negative information that's tied into the account. So what you want to do is you want to obviously identify the account number, and you want to be specific and concise with why it is that you're disputing the specific account. So it could be from a repo to a collection to a charge off, a late payment. You want to specify why it's, kind of specify why it's negative and why it is that you're disputing it. You want to also kind of tell them, well, this is what I want you to do about it.
Got it. Okay, so obviously, as some of you guys been watching the channel before, we all know that we have to be specific in that sense. It makes a lot of sense because, again, we have something that's called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And basically what that states is if anything is unverifiable, inaccurate, or incomplete, it must be corrected or removed. So one of the ways that we're going to go ahead and identify those is by being as specific as we can possible in each particular account that we're listing.
Yeah.
Now, following on from that, I've noticed that some of the letters kind of include some kind of language of like laws or statutes. What's that about?
Well, you want to make it clear that as a consumer, you're informed and you know your rights. So it wouldn't hurt to have a concise excerpt of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the fact that if something is inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable, that is just for removal. And it goes back to the way that the accounts are being reported. These creditors, essentially anything that gets reported to the credit agencies has to follow a specific number of fields and templates, and it has to be filled out correctly. If they don't fill it out correctly because they don't have, I guess, the due diligence or the policies in place to emphasize for them to follow through on that helps you out as a consumer, because then that is what's going to help you get that item removed off your credit. So it wouldn't hurt to include that on there. Any specific statutes that you know that they are what's the word? That they are violating.
There you go.
In order to make your case, in a sense.
Got it. And you know what's crazy? Going back to that, when I remember my days over here, and I'm pretty sure that's happening nowadays, a lot of people don't actually include their full name. So I've seen accounts being completely removed just off of the basis that they missed the middle initial in their full name. So a lot of you guys may have a middle initial or in your social security,
right,
or may have a second last name or something like that, and that's something that you're not using, and that account has it without the second last name or being as specific of having a middle initial, then obviously that's unverifiable, it's inaccurate.
Yep.
Right? So based on the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it must be removed. So on little specifics like that, it can actually work to your advantage to removing those negative items on your credit report if they only have a specific set amount of information that they have there. All right, so now Cynthia, one of the things that I've noticed a lot is, and especially on the comments, is, why pay a credit restoration agency, or you can do it yourself? Of course you can do it yourself.
Absolutely. But
one of the errors that I find a lot of people doing is that they're getting these templates online. On Google, yes, there's a bunch of forums with a bunch of templates that you can use, and you can send them off. The thing is that, check this out. Not sure if you know this or not, but there's 3 credit bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experience. And these guys receive millions of disputes daily from everybody in the nation trying to fix their credit. The problem is that if you're using one dispute letter that you found online, chances are there's millions using the same thing. And what happens is that it loses its effectiveness.
Yep.
The credit bureaus have something that's called, right, what you're saying, an e-Oscar system.
Well, yeah, what they use is a highly advanced computer system that, basically what that means is that this disputing process is not being overseen by a human person.
Right. Nobody's here can.
They have a specific algorithm in this computer system where you feed the dispute letters, and the machine is looking at them, and then obviously if they see a trend in the letters, in the formatting, it pretty much will spit it out, not do the verification process, not really look into the accounts that you're disputing. And then you're gonna get a template response, which is all these accounts were verified, or there's suspicious activity,
right,
or a whole plethora of other template responses that these agencies just spew out on a daily.
Right. So you might get a response that says this account was verified, not because your account was really verified, but because maybe the letter that you're using, the template letter that you're using, that everybody has access to, has the same more or less language in it. So it's going to identify it with the previous person that used that same dispute letter. Therefore, you're getting something back that says verified. So obviously at this point, it's time to get creative. How do we throw off the e-Oscar system in order to have a human being or somebody pay attention to those accounts that we want disputed for whatever reason? So Cynthia was telling me about some of the creative ways that BWS generates dispute letters. So what are some of those ways? What are some of the things that you've really got down?
We play with the letter formatting a lot. Every letter has a different font size, different emphasis on specific areas of the letter. A bold here, italicize there, underline here, highlight there. Where the name is located, just the whole order of things can be just put misplaced in the logical order, or the professional order we might be accustomed to because of our education and so on. So we kind of just, and if there's a typo with the spacing, grammatical errors or anything like that, just leave it. Don't be so formal with your letter, because the contrary will actually help.
Right. In addition to that, I've even seen them handwrite some letters and put stickers or little hearts on it. Again, just to throw off the e-Oscar system. On their end, they're going to identify it as, all right, this is actually somebody that's really trying to fix their credit, and it's not some sort of third party or attorney trying to send over a letter. A lot of you guys make the mistakes and sounding too like attorney-like and with high language or verbiage. Believe it or not, the e-Oscar system identifies that as not you, because I guess maybe it's discriminatory, but the average person probably doesn't speak that way. So it's going to throw it off, and again, it's going to lose its effectiveness. So obviously getting creative is going to, generate, a little mishap with the e-Oscar system, causing that to benefit you in the long run. Also, a lot of people, what they're doing is disputing online, which is great for the credit bureaus because it saves them a lot of time. But what a lot of people don't know is that when you dispute online, you lose a lot of the rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Meaning that if you dispute online, they're not required to tell you why something got verified or deleted, any specifics on that. So now a lot of people are getting verified responses from the credit bureaus if they are using these templates.
Right.
How should people answer back, or what's the next step when you guys get something that says verified?
Well, you want to question it. You don't want to take their word for it and say, okay, well, you verified it, then I guess, this is where the road stops. No, absolutely not. You want to challenge them. You want to ask them, specifics. Okay, how did you verify this? Who did you speak to? What document was provided to you? And the timeline behind that. I would treat it just the same way that if you're trying to dispute a charge on your account, you're going to jot down who you wrote to, when you spoke to them, the time that you spoke to. If they have a customer ID number, you're going to do that. So you kind of want to take the same approach when you're asking for this second dispute letter, on which essentially you're requesting their method of verification. How did you do this? How did you come to this conclusion? And you have the right to know that answer.
Got it. So that's right there. It's called a method of verification letter. It's a letter you sent out, again, asking for those specifics on how were they able to verify that. Now, how do you guys send, or how should we send a dispute letter to our creditors or credit bureaus?
You definitely want timelines, and dates and times are super important. So you want to certify it. You want to be able to track your letter, so that you are certain that these credit agencies are abiding by the time that they have to respond to you. So you want to keep track of that. It's a very tedious process in keeping records of everything and making sure that your next letter is ready to go out when their time clock is over. So I would say you definitely want to be able to document the journey of your disputing process from beginning to end, to whatever goal it is that you want to accomplish.
And what kind of repercussions can, I guess, the collection agency or credit bureaus, what are we talking about if they don't respond?
If they don't respond, well, then there you have the ability of getting this account removed, because now you have the documentation for them. If they're not responding and abiding to you, then there could be fines to them. You can put FTC complaints on these creditors, on these collection companies. You can take it as far as you want to take it. Obviously, it requires a lot more time, a lot more energy, and a lot of more due diligence on your part to get to that point. because a lot of these creditors and collection companies don't do what they're supposed to.
Right.
So it's really on the consumer to fight for your rights and to really get that to the end of it.
Awesome. So there you have it, guys. When it comes to constructing the perfect dispute letter, make sure that you check a recent copy of your credit report for any errors. When you're constructing a dispute letter, make sure that you have your name, your social, all your accurate personal information.
Yep.
And when it comes to listing those accounts, you want to go ahead and have the name, full account number, and specifics on what about that collection or late payment or whatever negative account you have on there. What is it that you're trying to dispute or resolve? And the next, then also you want to get creative as possible.
Yeah.
You want to handwrite a letter. You want to change the font around. You want to change the size. Maybe add some stickers or hearts along the way to kind of throw off the eOscar system when it comes to sending off your dispute letter. And also you want to send everything by certified mail read receipt.
Yes.
The law states that they have 30 business days to respond back to you. By having that documented on your end, you can kind of hold them accountable for anything that you're gonna go ahead and dispute and send off, right?
Yep,
Other than that, guys, this is BWS. Cynthia, which is the queen of disputing in here. She manages the whole nine over here. If you guys want any more information on credit restoration services or what's going on with your credit, they're actually offering a free credit evaluation at no obligation to you. So whether you do business with them or not, they just care that you know more or less what's on your credit report and how you can take your credit to the next level. Other than that, guys, my name is Ray. This is
Cynthia.